The Bonsmara, taking you forward. With female animals that have excellent mothering abilities, it has earned its reputation as one of the top choices for commercial breeders looking for quality animals in their crossbreeding systems. Bonsmara, the breed for all reasons.
In part 3 of our talks about Zoetis vaccination handling guide, we focus on after vaccination. And once again, I'd like to welcome Dr. Kobus Bester from Zoetis. Kobus, I suppose the work doesn't stop once animals have been vaccinated. What are the key things that happen after vaccination?
Hello, Lisa. Glad to be here to wrap this series up. After vaccination, the work should not stop. It often does because we just chuck the vaccinators back into the box and on the shelf they go. But to make your future vaccination easier for yourself, it's important to clean your automatic vaccinators and sterilize the needles as soon as possible after you vaccinated them, before the residue becomes sticky and it becomes progressively difficult to clean them properly. If you used a new vaccine gun, for example, for a certain vaccine like brucellosis vaccine, it's good practice to mark that vaccine gun and use that vaccine gun only for brucellosis in the future. So there's a bit of preparation that goes into, getting everything cleaned and sorted out after vaccination to make your future vaccination event just easier and simpler and cleaner.
Won't you elaborate on the cleaning of this automatic vaccinator? Do you use hot water? What do you do?
Now that's a very important question. So you're on the right track. So lukewarm water, if you use nothing else, just rinse and rinse and rinse. I had a professor at the university that told us the solution to pollution is dilution. So what that means is you rinse and rinse and rinse and rinse and rinse that gun as many times as you can, the more the better. Lukewarm water usually does the trick. The important thing that you should not do is use disinfectant to clean those vaccinators. Because if there's a little bit of disinfectant that remains behind on the inside of that vaccinator, it can actually interfere with the working of live vaccines that you use in the future. So it's important not to use any disinfectants. If anything can be used, it might be a mild soap that can be used, but lukewarm water, and especially if you do it immediately after vaccination, oftentimes does the trick. If you want to go a step further, that is best practice. If you want to sterilize those vaccine guns, some of them you get different brands, different makes. Some of them are plastic, some of them are metal. If you can disable them into their different parts and properly clean them and boil the metal parts, that would even be better. That brings me to the needles, the reusable needles. If you can boil them for 10 minutes, they are basically sterilized. So the better you can clean and sterilize all the different parts of that vaccine gun, and especially the needles, the better.
Mm-hmm. In our first discussion, you briefly touched on post-vaccination reactions. Won't you just remind us once again?
Yes, I think in the before vaccination, I said you should be prepared for post-vaccination reactions. The worst case scenario is something like anaphylaxis. That is an allergic reaction that can happen to any vaccine. Although it is very rare, it can be life-threatening. Therefore, we must be prepared for that. If I remember correctly, I said you should talk with your vet to have the proper medication at hand should an anaphylactic event occur. Other post-vaccination reactions are simply lumps or injection site lesions that can oftentimes be either avoided through hygienic handling or is expected and will resolve on its own, maybe as a result of an adjuvant in a vaccine. Yes.
What are the signs for anaphylaxis?
Yeah, so it's a allergic reaction. So if you think simplest way to remember it is think of a bee sting. So you've got the animals seem restless. They have difficulty breathing. You can even see facial swelling. So anaphylaxis post-vaccination usually occurs within the first 20 minutes. So it's a very quick reaction. It won't happen 2 or 3 hours later. It's soon after vaccination. So that must be part of your post-vaccination monitoring, just to make sure, check up on those animals. It's fairly easy to see that they are getting into an anaphylactic event. Yes. I just want to say again, it is rare, but it can happen.
Skabot, thank you very much for all this information. Where can we find this guide? Where will it be available?
Lisa, I think the best is for each farmer or any person that wants access to this guide is to contact their local Zoetis representative, and they will be able to help them sort them out with the guide.
Skabot, thank you very much for all this practical advice about vaccination before, during and after. And that is all available in Zoetis Vaccine Handling Guide. Dr. Skabot Vroeneman and Dr. Natanya Smit from Zoetis, they were both authors of this guide. And yes, if you have missed any of the other episodes, just search for them on the Plaas TV YouTube website. In the February edition of Stock Farm, the Simbra Cattle Breeders Association of Southern Africa published an article, and today Kobus Bester joins us to talk about the content of that article. We'll focus on a few subjects. Kobus, let's talk about the terrible word, and that is FMD. First of all, with strict movement restrictions in quarantine areas, how should a producer balance the need to move cattle to a better grazing with the legal and ethical requirements of an FMD designated area?
Hello, and thank you very much for the opportunity. One of the things that we see and what we really experience is that producers out there do not really understand the disease. They don't understand how infectious this disease is, and therefore the only thing you can really do is to be aware of the disease, and you have to limit movement of cattle as far as possible. You have to absolutely change your strategy within your operation in such a way that you only move animals when you move them off to hopefully a buyer of those animals. And that should become part and parcel of your strategy going forward, because of the risk that is absolutely just too high at the moment to move cattle. The problem is that with the disease, you cannot always see that the animal has contracted the disease. By the time that you realize it, it has spread a lot of viruses, a lot of virus load already among your herd, and therefore try and limit movement as far as possible. That is the best way to go about.
Mm-hmm. Let's focus on veld management and nutrition. Now, we know lots of rain often brings enough grass, but with lower protein. So can you explain why more grass doesn't necessarily mean better nutrition?
It's very important that people understand the fact that if there's abundance, it doesn't mean that there's quality. And a rumen has got a limited capacity in terms of its ability to be filled. Therefore, it's crucial that you fill the rumen, or the animal fill the rumen, with high-value nutritional grazing. And unfortunately, with the abundance of grass that we often have now, especially in the areas where they had good rain, the stomach is filled, but not with good quality of grass. And that means there's lower potential for growth, less nutrients available, which affect, unfortunately, the immune system, especially in FMD circumstances. The immune system, the ability to fight parasites is absolutely crucial. And as soon as we have what we have in this season in most areas is a lot of grass, low quality grass, and the animals, although well filled, they don't maintain good condition. And therefore, it all comes back to condition score. You have to be able to maintain good condition score. That will aid you, first of all, in production, but more important than production is reproduction. And together with that, especially this year, immunity. We have to make sure that our animals' immune system are absolutely properly supported.
How do we determine the quality of grass?
An easy way to go about is you pick a piece of grass, let's say as wide as your hand, and then what you do is you put that little piece of grass between your thumb and your index finger, and what you do is as soon as you press on it, as long as it bends, the quality is good. The moment that it applies resistance, it means there's too much lignin within the plant cells, which means that the palatability goes down, but more important to that is the digestibility of that grass will drop tremendously, and that is part of the problem. So it's like eating wood instead of grass that's filled with protein and other good nutritional aspects.
Oh, those are easy tips. How should a technique such as a ultra-high pressure grazing be implemented on a farm where it's not been practiced before to prevent overgrazing or felt damage?
The thing is, you have to decide what is realistic. Often, a lot of people would like to do ultra-high density grazing, and it is something that you can actually utilize as a tool to improve your natural veld grazing. But the point is, and the crucial aspect is that as soon as they work on the long-term beer can principle, in other words, by the time that the grass exceeds the length of a long-term beer can that's being put up straight, then you should put in the cattle, and by the time the grass reaches a height similar to a long-term beer can lying on its side, then you should remove the cattle. And that gives you more or less an indication. So in other words, you would like to graze the grass when it's not taller than 30 centimeters, actually 25 centimeters, not lower than 10 centimeters. But the problem comes in, you can only work with what you have. And that's why it's crucially important that you understand what you're busy with. You need to move your cattle around while there's still nice, green, palatable grass, high in protein. And the thing that you would like to achieve is to put the cattle on as many green grass as you can. And by moving the cattle around quite frequently, you're able to do that. Please bear in mind the effect of winter. You need to have winter feed also available. And winter feed is exactly what it says. Winter feed. Brown, dry winter feed. And that you need to have available for the animals to fill their rumen.
Kobus, now in the article you talk about polyethylene glycols and how to responsibly introduce such a product to an animal. Tell us about that.
Because of the change within the structure, the chemical composition of grass, as I've already indicated, you need to supplement the animal with something that will enable them to break down that lignin that is in the grass. And PEGs, as it's commonly known, there are two very well-known manufacturers who supply it. I'm going to mention one of the names, Browse Plus, for example. That's one of them. The other one is Easy Graze. Those are products that are available that you can include either in the lick, in your winter lick that you supply to the animals, or you can even include it in water. Just work it out, the amount of animals you have. You need to add like 2 to 4 grams per animal per day of that product, and that will assist them to enable them, additionally to the winter lick that you're going to provide, to really break down the lower digestibles within the fodder or within the veld grass that they will utilize.
Right, now we need to focus on weaner and a breeding stock and the strategy. If weaners cannot be sold, an option is to background them in the farm. What are some of the key indicators, or like we refer to them as KPIs, a farmer should monitor to ensure that these calves remain profitable?
Maintaining good health and maintaining good condition. That is absolutely crucial. In other words, you have to supply enough good quality feed to those calves. What we have at the moment, especially with the FMD, a lot of feedlots do not buy any calves in, which means you're sitting with an asset that you cannot turn into money. You can't turn it into cash. Now, the best way then to go about is then you need to add value. No, don't just keep the cattle. make sure you add value. Make sure that they keep on growing, especially now since the season has turned. We're going towards winter now. March, we'll already see a great degradation in the quality of fodder or grass available, and therefore begin timelessly to supplement the animals' licks, specifically with something with a higher protein to ensure that they maintain the ability to break down the grass that they consume. And you have to make sure that they keep growing. If you cannot afford that, please make sure that the animals at least do not lose weight. Often, especially in South Africa, winters, high-veld winters, we see that cattle will not grow during the winter. You need to understand the impact and the implication. You cannot let cattle utilize your grazing and not give something in return. So the way that you then have to go about is make sure you supplement them efficiently, sufficiently, make sure you maintain good body condition, look at things like tick infestation. Even though we're going towards winter, animals that are stressed out are unfortunately prone to parasites. Make sure that you have that under control. And then also please make sure that you follow an inoculation program where you prevent lung diseases especially.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know not all our farmers have access to all resources. Now, where resources are limited, how should a producer prioritize feed and lick allocation between pregnant cows, replacement heifers, and the unsold weaner calves?
Very important that we understand that heifers that you would like to retain, you have to look after your heifers. Heifers, very important. Your breeding stock in terms of your females. Often we say, no, the female she is in calf now, we can be skimpy with her. Big mistake. You need to understand that what you put into that cow that is in calf, a lot of what you put into her goes into the unborn within her. And it's crucial important that you understand you need to support her. So what you're going to do is consider turning more of your animals into, if you have to keep animals back, consider turning some of them into oxen or steers. They don't need to be spoiled in a certain way. They can go into survival mode, but your breeding stock is absolutely crucial. Therefore, you have to focus on the animals that are reproducing, your cows, and then also cows that are in lactation, cows with calves at foot. You have to make sure that they are well maintained. Otherwise, they're not going to reconceive, which means that you're going to carry an animal for another year without getting any return on your investment. And therefore, you have to focus on your breeding herd, your breeding stock. It's difficult now with the FMD to sell some of your cattle in many cases. Hopefully, as soon as we get the vaccines, the market will open up again. But concentrate on a core of your herd, and that should be your female breeding stock.
Thank you, Kobus. Valuable information from Kobus Bester. If you'd like to read more about what he was sharing with us today, don't forget to buy the February edition of Stock Farm. And Kobus Bester is breed director for the Simbra Cattle Breeders Association of Southern Africa.
Nice bucky. It's not a bucky. It's a Hilux.
It's not a bucky. It's the new Hilux Legend 55.